power of the tongue. And I'm one of these guys that after a lot of study in the scriptures and just a lot of experience in my own life and getting together with other people and relationships, whether it's business relationships or, rock and roll relationships, music relationships, I've just come to the place where I've seen that the tongue, how we use our tongue, is going to determine how long our friendships, relationships, marriages will last. How we use our tongue. And it's worth the heat. It's worth weathering this heat to be able to listen to some of these scriptures as you see them, because it can change your life. It can change relationships. It's done it with mine. And I find that sometimes when I start to falter in this area, I see relationships begin to fall apart and begin to have these chasms in them, that the only way to restore them is through the use of the tongue, and I don't mean sticking it out. I mean actually using it in a way that's going to bring reconciliation and restoration. Okay? First passage here is Proverbs chapter 18. A man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled. Now watch what it says here, and this is quoted actually in James. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Either way, the tongue can be used to bring death or life. That is destruction, separation, or life and harmony and restoration. And so there are actually 10 points I want to go over, and I'm going to blaze through them as fast as I can so we can get out of here and get in a cool restaurant somewhere or go jump in the lake. First one is, what is true perversion? What is true perversion? We hear about perversion all the time and we think, oh, perversion must be a child molester, or perversion must be a rapist, or perversion must be someone who's addicted to pornography, or whatever the case may be. But let's see what the Bible says about it. A naughty person, in Proverbs 6 verse 12 through 19, walks with a perverted mouth. Now we think, well, what's a perverted mouth? Does that mean they go around telling jokes? Well, let's see what it says. He winks with his eyes, speaks with his feet, he teaches with his fingers, perversion is in his heart. He devises mischief continually, and what? What does it say there? Sows discord. He sows strife with his lips. That's what he does. God says that's a perverted person. Someone who's gossiping, someone who's slandering. That's the person who is perverted. Isn't that interesting? It's really convicting to me. Because, all my life I grew up kind of in a religious environment, and we were always taught to say, ooh, he's a pervert, she's a pervert, And then I sit there and read that and I think, gosh, of all the times that I've gossiped in my life, that's what God is saying to me. George, you're the pervert. When you gossip, when you sow discord, when you cause strife, you're perverted. I think that's fascinating to me. Therefore shall his calamity come suddenly. Suddenly shall he be broken without remedy. Why? Because it's just kind of like karma, right? How many of you ever heard of karma? What goes around comes around. What comes around goes around. You know what I mean? It comes back at you. Whenever you gossip about someone else, it's going to come back. Because if people know you gossip, they're going to gossip to you and they're going to gossip about you. It's just the way the world works. Okay, that's what gossip does. These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. A proud look and a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked imagination, feet that are swift into running to mischief, and watch, a false witness that speaks lies, and he that sows discord among the brethren. Happens all the time in churches. It's one of the biggest reasons people don't want to go to church. Did you know that? It's because they hear the church slandering and gossiping about other people. And people who supposedly go to church, they go to work, and they're talking about other people, and they're gossiping, and they're slandering. Hey, I want to go to that church, right? That makes you want to go to church, doesn't it? If you know that someone's going to be talking about you. If you know that someone's going to gossip about you. Because all of us have dirt. We have dirt every day of the week. And I guarantee you, I wouldn't want anybody gossiping or slandering about even the dirt that I've done this past week. It's very important for us to understand. When we're gossiping about someone, it's usually that particular area that we've got problems in. Why? We're judging them. We're judging them. And I've just been trained over the years to realize, man, when I start to point the finger, That's probably God's way of telling me, you know what, George, you may be struggling with that yourself. You know, if you look at a person and you say, oh man, that person, what a jerk. He's so mean to his spouse. That's probably God's way of saying, you know what, George, you probably have some stuff to work on with your spouse. Or I can't believe that guy is watching pornography. George, what chicks have you been checking out walking down the street? You know what I mean? I mean, it's God's way of speaking to us. It really is. Have I been focusing on my wife? I'm too busy focusing on how some other man is dealing with his wife or how he's dealing with other women. And maybe God is telling me, why don't you start focusing on your own marriage? Or I look at how parents are raising their kids. Gosh, I wish you'd spank the bejesus out of that kid. Well, maybe you're not disciplining your own kids correctly. Man, that kid sure yells a lot. Well, how about your own kids? You let them get away with hurting each other and telling on each other, gossiping about each other, right? The dividing factor, the tongue is the dividing factor. Proverbs 16, an ungodly man digs up evil. They're constantly wanting to find out dirt on people, right? I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but just think about the people that you know that you can find dirt from someone else about. Think about how easy it is to listen to that story. We talked about it briefly last week. To hear gossip, it's just so intriguing and it just satisfies us. Wow. You know why it satisfies us? Because it makes us feel better about ourselves. That's just what it does. A perverted man sows strife, and a whisperer, look at this, a whisperer separates the best of friends. You want to know why you lost your friend, your best friend? It's probably because of gossip. What's going on as far as family relationships? Probably because of slander, gossip, the way we use our tongue. Where no wood is, next passage, Proverbs 26, the fire goes out. Makes sense, doesn't it? And here God tells us, so where there is no talebearer, tattletale is what we call it today. Where there is no tattletale, the strife ceases. We're too busy trying to tell on one another. As coals are to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. The words of a tattletale are as wounds, and they go down to the innermost parts of the belly. You know what's funny? Is when I hear someone tell a lie about me, it doesn't really bother me. I know it's a lie. But you know what hurts the most? Is when someone tells something about me that's true. That's what hurts the most, because you know that they know about you. They know about your deep, dark secrets, and it's painful. It's painful to know that people are talking about you. And so that's what he's saying. It just goes down to the innermost parts of the belly. It affects us inside. We get sick. We lose sleep over it. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm one of these guys that's prone to big mistakes. I wish I were prone to, quote, small ones, but then I'd probably be lifted up in tons of self-righteousness and pride. Ooh, I don't do the big ones, right? I'm prone to those big ones. I'm prone to those ones that people love to talk about. And especially having been a school teacher, I still am a school teacher, but it's very easy if you do something lame or say something the wrong way or treat a student the wrong way, you know what? Everybody's going to talk about it. And believe me, there were times, Cassie knows this, she was my student, where I'd said, you know, a student would behave maybe a certain way, and I would respond out of anger. I would respond out of losing my temper and say things that were hurtful to students. And next thing you know, it goes around, and suddenly parents are mad at me. And that just feels terrible. And it's wrong. It was wrong of me to do it, but it just feels awful knowing that the community is talking about George. Okay? It just hurts. Burning lips, verse 23, and a wicked heart are like a potsherd covered with silver dross. He that hates divides with his lips. You ask yourself the question, do I hate people? If we're gossiping, that's our way of showing hatred.